Welcome to Witchy Business, hosted by me, Emily.
And me, Anna. This is your weekly dose of friendly business chat with a witchy flair.
Through these personal and vulnerable conversations, we share our business journey with you,
highlighting the links to our overall growth journey in the hopes to make you feel more supported as you share your magic.
This episode is sponsored by Plan Her, a timeless and undated planner and journal created to help witches stay organised while in flow.
We especially love the pages for new moon manifestations and full moon reflections.
For additional support on how to harness the energy of the moon while working on your business,
subscribe to our Substack, your link in our show notes. Exciting news, we are hosting our first online workshop. We wanted to create a moment for you to prepare for spring and the astrological new year in communion with your business. And we figured that many of you, us included, would probably be joining circles and events already on Saturday, the 18th of March, as the first day of spring is the 21st of March. So we decided to organize our Witchy Business workshop on Saturday, the 11th of March. So you can have a special moment to be with your business and still be able to celebrate spring the following weekend. We'll host it online so all of you can attend, and also because we both live in separate countries. And it will be from 9 a.m. till 12 UK time, which is 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Europe time on Saturday, the 11th of March of this year. So come join us in ceremony online to release old ways of working and set new intentions to have your most magical year in business yet.
There will be dancing, breathwork, and visualizations to ensure all your creations come from an authentic, embodied space. During the workshop, we will hold space for you to be welcomed with a meditation, connect to your business entity, release what no longer serves your business, set new intentions for the season and year ahead. We'll ask everyone to show up on camera to make it feel like a real circle as much as possible. So come as you are. All of you is fully welcome in our spaces. Come and share, and we'll hold the space and only give advice and coaching if asked for. Bring a journal and some colourful pencils and pens or markers or whatever you need to express yourself fully. Set up your space with a candle, get comfy with some cushions, make it all cozy so you can feel fully supported and be ready to dance.
You'll find the link to book in our show notes. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to DM us on Instagram at wearewitchybusiness. So excited to see you there. Witches and wizards and all other magical beings, welcome to Moon Notes. If you're in Europe, you might have seen that the new moon was written as happening on Monday or sometimes Sunday. It's because it's actually happening exactly around midnight between Sunday the 19th and Monday the 20th. So that clears up any confusion. This new moon is in the sign of Pisces, which is the last sign in the zodiac. It's time for you to set intentions for how you want to finish this cycle. You may find yourself wanting to leave the past in the past and move on from there. It's the time to decide what will you be moving towards. As Pisces is a water sign, you can expect strong emotions which may impact your ability to concentrate and be efficient in your work. Notice this when it happens and be compassionate with yourself as you witness your own imperfections.
If you look at the symbolism of Pisces, it's two fish swimming together in what looks like opposite directions, but actually they are both swimming in a circle in the same direction. They even look like the yin and yang symbol representing the masculine and feminine, expansion and contraction. This new moon is calling us to define what balance means to us and set our intentions towards it. There is no wrong path. Whatever you decide is your path will lead you in the right direction. You have a chance to start taking responsibility for the changes you want to see in your business or work life.
Take a moment to sit down with these journal prompts to figure out in which direction you will be moving forward. What have you learned in your business or work life in the past 12 months? What are you holding on to, and what are you choosing to continue? And what are you deciding to let go of? What does balance in your work life look like to you? And what will you do to create more of it? How do you want to move forward from now on? And what energy do you intend to cultivate? And lastly, how can you best support yourself in moments like now when emotions are high?
And now it's time for the card pull. And today we've got the Two of Swords in reverse. So in reverse is always about going inwards, whereas upright is more external. So the Two of Swords in reverse suggests that you might be feeling a bit stuck in your business or in your work. Maybe you're facing a challenging decision, or you've got two options, but you're unclear about which option to take. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed at the moment. In the image on this card, it shows a woman with a blindfold, and this suggests that you might be closed off to additional information that you need to help you with your decisions, or that you are too in your head at the moment and you're unable to see the bigger picture. So this card is really a reminder and an invitation to go inwards, listen to your intuition. The answers are within you. Just like the blindfold in this picture, close off to any external distractions that might be distracting you from really going within and listening to your intuition. Trust yourself. You know what's best for you. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Witchy Business. Today we're going to be talking all about what we have both learnt from being empaths and how it relates to our business. We were talking about this one day on the phone and we just thought this is going to make a great episode. So hope you enjoy it.
Okay,
So
where do we start? When did you realize you were an empath?
I think it's probably like more of a question of, I think as an empath you always know that you're different,
Yes.
but you don't know what that means or what that is. And so I probably learned what it was like not that long ago, like the kind of definition of it and what that actually means, and then also how to like protect myself from it. Probably like 5 years ago. Like what about you?
I think it's about that as well. And I think I learned first about being hypersensitive, or maybe that's just what it's called in French. They refer to it as like hypersensitivity a lot.
Is that highly sensitive person? Because that's similar to being an empath, but slightly different. But is that what you mean, or is that
so I got it more from that sense of like being a highly sensitive person, and I think I just always related to anything that had to do with that. And so about, like you said, always felt it, but put a name to it maybe like 5-6 years ago, around there.
I think it might be helpful also to define what it is. So like for anyone who's listening, who is listening to this and then suddenly discovers the term empath as well, like we did, and it resonates and you're like, oh, that's how I feel. So empathy, as we know, is all about feeling experiences and feelings and emotions from the other person's perspective. So it's like you can relate to someone when they're telling you their story, their experience. But being an empath takes it that one step further and much further, and it's you're actually feeling someone's emotions and experiences as if they're your own. So we've both talked about this before, about that ability to, and I say ability and superpower because it really is, like, when you know what it is and when you know how to work with it, it is a superpower. But it's, you walk into a room full of people and you know that there's something off. There's a sadness there, there's an anger there, and you're working your way around the room trying to figure out who that is. Or sometimes you just know, oh, it's that person. It's all coming from that person. But then it's like you take that on and you feel it as if it's your own. And yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today, because that is quite challenging sometimes when you're not aware that that's not your own experience and that that's not your own emotion. You can carry that with you for a really long time if you're not aware.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that kind of sum it up?
Completely. And it's different to compassion. As compassion, to me, the way I see it, it's more an understanding of the other's emotional state, and you can hold it, but you're not like feeling it as if it was your own. So it's like there's compassion, empathy, and then there's being an empath, and it's really taking it further down. And I think it's fair to say that a fair amount of empath are hypersensitive, because it is a form of like hypersensitivity of you're aware of more emotional states of other people. And personally, I found that putting a name to it helped me then read about it, understand it more, and turn it into that superpower that you mentioned, instead of being something that really weighed me down and was really heavy to live with. That really helped. And I guess now that I see it that way, my work is so much around like helping people be with their emotions that it's actually helped me when I train to just be with other people's emotions and my own more. So and I think being aware also feels empowering in a way, because when you come away from a situation or from a meeting with someone, or even watching a film or reading a book, and then you're feeling the emotions that are going on in that book or that film, and then you realize, oh, this isn't me, and then it's such an empowering feeling, because you're like, oh, okay, like I am not my emotions, I am not these emotions, I am just me. And it really can be quite powerful. Hypersensitivity, so that's like the difference would be, I guess, is that it's like being oversensitive to everything.
So
it's not just emotions. Like emotions is part of it, but then there's, well, for me as someone who's hypersensitive, noise is a huge one, light is another, people's emotions, their states of being, like just everything's like a bit hyper stimulating. And being hypersensitive is also having, well, my experience anyway, is having like all your radars on full blast all the time, just trying to capture like any form of information anywhere. So you're like overly reading the person in front of you, but it appeals to a whole crowd. It's just like everything. So it can get a bit much if you don't learn to be with it and to turn those off, turn the radars off from time to time. And also allow, like for me, a big part is allowing myself those moments where I'm like, it's kind of like I allow myself to be the hypersensitive person that I am, and to make the changes that I need to make to be in like that safe bubble. So then I can, then I can navigate the world a little bit easier, because I'm not going to be able to change the whole world to better suit my hypersensitivity. As much as I would like to, the world is beautiful the way it is, and it would be sad if there was less noise, less light, and all of that. So it's not all about controlling your environment. It's just sometimes learning to do what you need to do to be able to best navigate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So but coming back to the empathy in work, I know before I was able to put a name to it, I found it really difficult, especially in the workplace, because there's this, I want to say rule, but it's not the right word. It's just this understanding or this way of being that we leave our emotions at the door when we go to work. And so there's a disconnect between what I'm picking up from people and what they're showing. And the bigger that disconnect, the bigger the empath radar is on. The more I try to find proof that what I'm picking up from the person is real, I guess. Yeah. How did you find it in the workplace?
Yeah, exactly like that. I think that kind of sums up all relationships as well.
Oh yeah.
For empaths, because when people don't say what they mean, which is often, a lot of the time, a lot of people either don't want to talk about their emotions or they don't know how to talk about their emotions. So as an empath, when you feel their emotions, you already kind of know that they're not feeling how they're saying they're feeling. Yes. So when that translates into a workplace where they're definitely not saying how they're feeling, for me, it was then that would trigger all of my stories inside me. And if this person was saying that's how they felt and it's not how I felt that they felt, then I would be like, is that about me? Are they annoyed with me? Have I done a bad job? And then it's all of that coming up too.
Yeah. There's this massive link between being an empath and trust.
Yeah.
Because what we've picked up and what is said to us is a lot of the time very different. And so you learn that you can't trust. And I'm making a big generalization here, but I know it is valid, for us. And that's all we can talk about, really.
Yeah.
That you're like, well, I can't trust what that person's saying or what the world is saying to me, because what I feel, or even worse, and I think sometimes more the case, I can't trust what I'm feeling because everybody's telling me the opposite or something different to what I'm picking up. So I know with time, until I really got into understanding the whole empath thing, there was a phase of not trusting, a long phase from early childhood of not trusting what I was feeling, because you learn to trust what people say instead, because you learn, when you're a kid and your parents are telling you, no, everything's fine, and you're thinking things are not fine. And then you just learn to trust them instead of trusting yourself. And then you just have all these life experiences that validate that belief, and then you just layer it on top until you become an adult, and you just completely don't trust your own. It's further than intuition. It's just your own holding of emotions. And then how can you trust your own intuition if you don't trust your understanding of emotions? And so it's quite conflicting until you can learn to be with it and really embrace it. And just bouncing on what you said with relationships, even outside of work, sometimes it can be really tricky, because I know in the past I've felt things in the other person, kind of, and I want to speak further about this as well, but felt things from the other person that they haven't even noticed themselves, or it hasn't been present in them for long enough for them to be able to digest it or be with it for long enough to be able to communicate it. Like they're not at that stage, but I'm like picking it up, and straight away I'm like, ooh, that's there. And so unconsciously I'll like trigger conversations for them to validate what I'm picking up in them.
Yeah.
And most of the time that person's not ready. So you don't get met with what you're wanting, and you don't get met with the validation of like, yes, this is how I'm feeling, but I'm not ready to discuss it. You get met with, no, I'm not feeling that. Like, that's not there. Stop being a psycho, kind of, and that can just like spiral and be really difficult. So then there's also a lot of self-responsibility to take when you're an empath and you feel things from other people. It's just because you're feeling it doesn't mean they're ready to be on your level.
Yeah.
And just because you feel it from others doesn't mean that others read you as easily as you read them. So there's a lot of self-responsibility that comes with that.
Yeah, I think that's a huge lesson to learn as well. And to your point of when you learn the term, the name of it, like when you learn that, then you can start to really take responsibility and empower yourself by learning, by educating, and by experiencing and learning what works for you. And it can be really confusing when people don't even know how they're feeling, because for us, we feel everything. And I know that both you and I are quite open with our emotions and with how we're feeling. So when someone's not, that often does feel quite confusing for me. And in my business and in my work, one of the best lessons was learning that, first of all, it's not my responsibility to fix anyone else, because also that comes into a lot about being an empath and a highly sensitive person, is like this, because we feel it, we're like, well, we want to fix that, right? So that, and then also that it's my responsibility to manage what I'm taking on and bringing in, and then to cleanse that. It's like looking at your energy like you would your physical health. You go to the gym every day, so wouldn't you just cleanse your energy every day too?
How do you do it?
I have this grounding meditation that I do, and I imagine, so I just get comfy, close my eyes, and I imagine roots coming down out the bottom of my feet and going into the earth. And then I just see all of the stuff that's not mine, all of the any negative emotions, anyone else's emotions just coming out of me, like, and I see it like a kind of black, it's like this black energy coming out into my roots, going down into the earth, and then I breathe in cleansing energy, and I just let it wash over me. And then I think one of the most important things that I learned about this as well is leaving it open. Like, if you imagine, so I've got rid of all the negative energy, I've brought the fresh energy in, but then instead of like kind of imagining the roots being cut, they're kind of they're there, but the like the space to let the energy out is just smaller. Because if you close it up and you seal it, because sometimes I'll imagine like some white light coming down from the top of my head as well, and like creating a kind of shield, but then what you're doing is you're trapping the energy in. So if there's negative energy inside you, then it will stay. So by just leaving a little bit open, you're allowing anything that comes, you've got this like protective shield on, you've got your cleansed energy inside of you, and then you're allowing anything negative to just still come out. What do you do?
Well, my big thing, and I shared this in the previous episode, is water. So I have a shower right before bed every night. And I really have this, I don't even like visualize it that much anymore. It's just automatic. Like when the water touches my body, it just cleanses everything that isn't mine away and helps me really come back to me. So to my core and to my heart. So water is a big thing for me. And I actually learned this. I just remembered crazy life experience. For about a month when I was 24, I interpreted for a psychic. So she was Australian and she came to New Caledonia, French Island, where I grew up. And I was there on holiday and she needed someone to translate like live during her sessions. And so because she knew my mum, I was that person. And for a whole month, I translated live from her. And after like 2 days, I was like, how do you do it? Because you're picking up like all the energies from these people. How do you not carry it with you? And so she showed me, she was like, I wash my hands afterwards every time. And she was like, sometimes I use crystals. A lot of the time I don't even need them, but there's just this intention that I clean. And so I started doing that. Even sometimes like at work, I remember just coming out of a meeting and just feeling a bit too much and just taking that time to visualize like the water on my hands, and like that cleansing really helped. And she also taught me, and I worked with someone who works with like energies and stuff, who taught me the same thing, but with different words. That basically, when it's really useful for me to have everything open, then to do so intentionally. So before a session, like with a client where I want to really like feel and pick up where they're at, because that's actually helpful when I'm coaching, to be able to know like where to push, where to pull, you know, to poke around. I always, like 10 minutes before the session, I sit down and I really ground myself and I visualize like all the different channels kind of opening and saying, this is for the greater good of that person and for me to have everything open, because it really helps me. But after that session, I close. It's like, it's no, and you know, when I'm walking around, because sometimes it's like even hard to walk around a street where there's a lot of people, because I feel like I'm picking up from everyone. And it's just always coming back to me of like, right now it's not useful for me to pick up like what the person across the street is feeling, because not my place. So just closing it back and coming back to me. And there is something that has been like on my mind and in my field recently that I noticed, and it came from a conversation with a client, and I think it can be helpful. So the person was sharing with me that, you know, they're an empath and they really pick up other people's emotions, and what do they do with that? And in that moment, I was like, wait, when we say we pick up the other person's emotion, say it's sadness, because I feel like that one's easy to understand. If I see you sad and I quote unquote pick up your sadness as an empath and feel your sadness, you're actually not feeling any less sad. And so if we see emotions as energies that are in motion, it's not like I'm coming into your field of energies and emotions and picking some up and taking them for myself. I'm just suddenly feeling the same thing that you're feeling. And so what I'm actually feeling is my own emotion. And witnessing your sadness activates my sadness. And then, as we speak about quite a lot, when you feel something, it is your responsibility to hold it and to be with it. And so it comes back to that sense of self-responsibility that you have to have any person, but especially as an empath, because I almost like thinking about it. It's like if as a child in the formative years, like the 0 to 7, if I felt things or picked up or understood emotions that were then told to me weren't there, by not trusting myself, I was like repressing what I was feeling. And so now as an adult, I'm not picking them up from someone. It's their emotion is triggering all the stuff that I repressed from those formative years to today. That's a whole long time to be, you know, pushing things down. And so there's a whole lot of this emotion that's like stored up and really blocked in. And so it's coming back to that self-awareness of realizing what I'm seeing in them is activating it in me, but it's not theirs, it's mine. And what's really good about that is that if it's theirs, you can't do anything about it. But if it's yours, then you can be with it. And maybe that can feel a little bit overwhelming because you're like, well, then I get all these emotions that we've classified as bad get activated all the time. I think when you're an empath, you also feel someone else's joy. Or I should correct myself, your joy gets activated by seeing someone else's joy. And that's really beautiful. And so, again, it's seeing it as your, you know, your superpower of really being able to not just understand on a mental level, but embody it with your whole like body, mind. And you can learn to be with your emotions. You definitely can. And then they let you be, and then you just have a much smoother, easier flowing life. So
yeah, I love all of that. I think that that's I just want to pick up on a couple of things that you said. The difference between, so what makes it a superpower versus what makes it not, makes it more challenging, is when you were saying using it for good in sessions as a coach. That's a really beautiful skill to have, because, and again, it's different. So now we're talking specifically about work, you know, in a personal relationship, you might maybe like push a little bit more to get that out of them. And in a coaching session, it's great to be aware of and have it there, you know. But then going into feeling the emotion, and if it is triggering something of ours like sadness or something else, then holding on to that is not helping anyone, because what you're saying is it's not taking it away from them. By taking it on ourselves, it's actually only affecting us. So that, I think that's a really great way of seeing the difference. It's like, well, we can feel it and we can use it for good, or we can take it on as our own and not do anything with it and not be helping anyone with it and be completely consumed with it, because sometimes there are times when that does happen.
Yeah, exactly. And it always comes back to that self-responsibility of, you know, knowing how to hold it. Like in a personal relationship, if you're feeling it in your friend, in your partner, or, you know, then hold it for yourself until they're ready to meet you at that level, you know, like not pushing it and just learning to hold it within yourself. And with work, if it's with colleagues or, you know, people that you're working with, it's the same thing. It's just like understanding when it's helpful to mention it and when it's just your own responsibility to be with it. You know, it can be like, I'm sensing a lot of insert emotion here, you know, sadness, happiness, excitement, like fear. is it present in you as well? Like, do you feel it? You know, not even assuming that they're feeling it, just saying, this is what I'm feeling inside of me. Do you feel it too? And then seeing where that takes the conversation. And with clients, it's more like using what you're feeling to know like how to guide the conversation as well. And just, noticing how activated it is. Like if it's really alive, maybe you've got a lot of work to do with that. And then if it's just present and you can just feel it within you, then just being able to hold it for the other person as well. So
I just want to share two funny, well, kind of, I'm laughing now because of the context of this podcast, but at the weekend I was in Marrakesh and I was on Saturday walking through the souks, which are like hectic, really busy. There's a lot of people. So all of my senses were just in overdrive. And usually, like I know myself, I know what works for me in the mornings, and I'll have my morning routine and I'll practice breath work, I'll do my meditation cleanse, but I didn't do that on Saturday. And so what happened was I was walking through and it was so physical in my body. I felt like this weight on my chest as soon as I walked in. It wasn't everywhere, it was just in this certain bit, and it was undercover, and I just felt like this huge weight on my chest, and it was just so heavy and constricting, and I just like I needed to get out of there. Like I felt like I couldn't breathe. And we went into a restaurant and we sat down and I just cried. I just started crying and tears were just coming down my face. And I was like, this is not mine. Like, because I sat there and I thought, what just happened? And I was like, this is not mine. And so I just had to just take a moment and just sit there and like close my eyes in the restaurant and just let go. But after that, we walked back that same way and it happened again. Like it was just in this one particular place. And it was so, like just knowing that as well, like knowing that, because I felt myself saying as I was walking in, like, it's okay, just like get through this bit and I'll be fine the other side. And I was like out the other side in the open, it was fine. But it was just, it was such a strange physical sensation. And then the other thing happened on the plane back yesterday. This is another thing that happens to empaths, is I guess because we are quite open most of the time and people can feel that. And someone I was sat next to on the plane,
can't see it if you're not watching,
coming.
But I'm like literally hiding my face.
I had like my book out and everything on the plane, and then I put my book down, and that was like the invitation for this person next to me. She just started talking, telling me about her personal life, like and then she was crying and like we were it was a whole thing. And but I felt, because I love meeting new people and I love hearing stories from people, and I love being a support. But also, this is another lesson that I've learned, is you have to be in the right space to do that. And I wasn't in a space in a space to be able to hold space for her, what she was needing. And so I actually found myself, in a good way, putting some boundaries in and some barriers up. And that is quite new for me, because maybe before, even maybe a couple of years ago, I would have been like, so tell me more, let's get some wine, let's go in and chat for 3 hours. But instead, I was asking polite questions, like questions that I could tell she wanted to talk about it, but I knew it wasn't my responsibility at that time to be that person for her. She actually was on a girls' holiday, you know, like with her girlfriends. So having that ability, I think, to recognize when it's your place to say something, when it's not, and when you are in a right space or not, to hold that for someone else as well, is really powerful, especially in business.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it comes back to that self-responsibility, you know, like you've got to look after yourself and be responsible for you first and foremost before you can open up to others. And I've noticed that, like, the more I hold space for others, the better, bigger, more tender the space I need to hold for myself. Because when I think about it, I don't want to be less available, you know, like maybe to the random person on the plane. But then even in the long term, like in my, you know, big life vision, I want to be available for my family, for my friends, for my clients, for my community. I want to be that person who is there to listen and to hold space for others. Like that, every time I think about it, every time, you know, I have a thing where I'm like, oh, I need to set more boundaries, I need to not be as available, that doesn't ring right for me. It's not what I want. And it can be like what someone wants, and that's definitely okay. And I 100% encourage like setting boundaries if it does not resonate with you. But what I've been like sitting with a lot lately is I want to be a bigger space. I want to be a wider space. You know, like in my long-term vision, I just see a lot of people all the time. But what I notice is the bigger the space I want to be for others, the bigger the space I need to be for me. And it's like that self-care has gone up a notch and it always will. And sometimes for me, it's a bit confronting because I almost feel like, oh, I'm broken because if I don't do these like 20 things every day, then I'm not able to be like as I want to be. But then there's the other way of looking at it of like, I know exactly what I need to do to be able to support myself into being the person that I want to be. So then it's just this like roundabout thing to look at. But it's a bit like everything. There's no like definite answers of here is the 5 ways to become a better empath. And you know, it's really tuning in with yourself, because if empathy is about holding emotions, then how does it feel within you? You know, like noticing the emotion, the energy of it, how you can hold it better for yourself, which allows you to be present with that of others more. And it's a ride. It's a long journey. And
I think there's no one size that fits all, and the whole point in our podcast is us sharing our experiences, our, you know, our opinions. But I think what you just said is really important. It's about self-care and nourishing yourself so that you feel supported to hold space for other people. And for me, boundaries really come into that because it's something that I have not previously been good at. And I have a friend who is also a highly sensitive person, and what we've started doing is normalizing just saying, do you have space for this chat right now? Because I guess tying into, you know, that chat on the airplane, empaths and highly sensitive people can often become, this is going to sound awful, but you know, I don't mean it this way, but it's like the dumping ground for people's problems. And that's fine, because that's fine if you want to be that person. And I do like being that person. I do like being that support person, but only when I am ready to hold that. And the way I see it is the same as physical health. Like I said before, it's like I wouldn't go and run a marathon without training for it, in the same way that I wouldn't show up for, like, when I have client calls, say it's like a day of like a couple of those, I'll make sure that I have space in between to then recharge so that I can show up and hold that space. And it's the same for friends, it's the same for family, and it's the same for random strangers. And unfortunately yesterday it was late at night and I just wasn't in the zone, and that's completely fine. So I think it's like a balance of all of that, isn't it? It's like knowing your boundaries, knowing what self-care works for you, but then I guess also not becoming obsessed with that, like if you haven't had time to do all of those things that make you feel better today, that's okay. Like just find a shorter version of it for you that like how you said you always open the space before clients, like 10 minutes before, just to make sure that you can open up properly. And I do that as well, because it helps to then get into that space and then hold that space, right? But for someone else that might be a longer period, or it might be a shorter period, or maybe they don't need it. It really is about finding what works for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. You've got to just be with yourself and notice what's right. And I'm sure you've had this as well, but I've had times where I've been like there for friends or randoms or colleagues or whatever, or clients, and you feel almost energized afterwards because you were able to hold that space. And externally you could have the same situation again and feel completely drained. And it's noticing, like, was it because of the kind of emotion that was activated, or was it like my basic state, or my status quo before that exchange started? And then you start like noticing what you can like adjust in a way. And also, like, going back on what you said, I think the days where your status quo or your ability to hold is lower, then you set more boundaries, especially with strangers. And then the days where you're, more able to hold, it's not better, it's not worse, it's just what it is. Then you can have more doors open. And you can say, like, right now is not the time, I'll get back to you when I can hold it, and it's it comes back again. I just keep repeating myself to that self responsibility of being able to say, I really care about you, if it's someone that and then just say, but right now I don't have the capacity, I'll get back to you when I do. But then, like, do that, be responsible, actually do get back. Or it's never linear, it's never the same, and it's just accepting that is a big part of it.
And that can actually be challenging. Like saying that to people is probably a separate conversation on that, because that can be really challenging. And that has actually blown up in my face before as well, and it's not very nice. That's like, I guess the whole point in boundaries is like you're setting them for yourself, but when you've not done that before, people don't get it. And it's it can be really hard, but I feel like that is a separate conversation.
That'll be a new episode.
But I guess the reason why this conversation came about, and the reason why we wanted to share this, was because we were talking about some books that we were reading and how they were making us feel, and then how that tied into business. Because when you're reading at night or in the morning, sometimes you wake up with this energy that it is your, it's, how did you put it?
It's yours, but it's activated by what you're reading.
Yes.
So it feels like it's theirs, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a book, actually, sorry to cut you in, but a book is a great way of showing that what you're feeling is yours. Because that character in that book, if it's a fiction, does not exist. And yet you're feeling, quote unquote, their fear, their sadness, their joy. Well, clearly you're not, because they don't exist. But you.
Yeah.
So
that's such a good point. That's such a good point. Yeah. Yes. So yeah. And then when we were talking about it before, we were then sharing how we can manage that and kind of move past that so that we can show up for our business, show that we can show up for our clients. And then we were like, okay, this needs to be a podcast episode of how we do that. But yeah, and then we were thinking we should do a book club.
Yeah. So Em and I love books. We've been talking about like what books we've been reading pretty much since we've met, haven't we? It's just like really quickly became like we realized that we enjoyed the same kind of books. So we talk about books often. I think it really picked up with, was it Circe and The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller?
Yes. Greek mythology.
My God, nothing has compared. Like no books about mythology or whatever that I have read since, because I have tried. Nothing has compared. So if anyone listening has a book on like any form of mythology that is on par with Madeline Miller, please share, because we would love that. And then our second obsession is The Seven Sisters by Lucinda Riley.
Yes.
The 8th book comes out this year, and we're both a little bit too excited about it. I've already pre-ordered it. But yeah, book club. We were thinking, and please like get in touch, let us know what if this is something that interests you, but we were thinking of maybe picking 2 fiction and 2 non-fiction books maybe every 3 months, and then in those we will pick books that we've already read that we really want to share, and then books that we haven't read so we can read along, and then do 1 episode every 3 months. So it's not like we become a book podcast, but we have an episode or at least a segment on a semi-regular basis where we get to really nerd out on something that we love, which is reading. So yeah, let us know. And if there's books that you would like us to talk about, then definitely let us know.
Yeah, exciting.
That's the idea about the book club. And then we've got something else we're really excited to share.
So we're going to do a retreat, an online retreat, and it's going to be on the 11th of March. And we'll pop all of this in the show notes and then in Substack as well. But it's going to be, the times are UK time from 9 a.m. till 12, and with a 15-minute break in between. So it will run for that entire time with a 15-minute break. It's £33 British pounds. And we have a couple of, what do we call them? Guidelines or things that
what we want to do.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that this is a really safe space for you to come and work on your business. And with that in mind, and actually this ties into a whole conversation, but I'll just come back to that in a sec. So it'll be on Zoom, and we would like, if possible, for everyone to be on camera, and we invite you to come and share if you want to. We'll hold the space, and we won't give advice or coaching unless it's asked for. And this is something that we have been talking about recently, because we want it to be a space where you can come and, you know, feel like if you want to share in the moment, then do. And if you need advice, then great. But we don't want to feel like we're giving advice or guidance when it's, you know, not asked for. And that's something that's really important to us. And the whole purpose of this retreat is to meet with your business entity.
Yeah, so we're doing it specifically on the 11th of March. There's a big reason for that, because the 21st of March is the start of the astrological new year. And we figured the weekend just before, so the 18th and 19th, a lot of women in particular are probably going to be in circle, you know, doing all the rituals that come with that time of year. And so we wanted to do it a week prior, so you can have some time really dedicating to using those energies, but in your business. So there will be a moment to release what no longer serves you, and then a time to set your intentions and see how you want to move forward, starting from the 21st of March, so the astrological new year, because I mean, it's what we do, isn't it? Work with the energies of the moon and the seasons. And so it will be really a space for you to tune into those energies, for us to hold space for you, and for you to relate and commune with your business in a very different and more sacred spiritual way. So yeah, we'll share more info as we go along, because it's still pretty early. But if it's something that interests you, just pop that in your diary, the 11th of March from 9 till 12 UK time, which is 10 to 1 Europe time. And you can, I'm sure if you're somewhere else, you can figure it out online, because I don't have all the time zones in my head. But yeah, so the best way to be the first to know is just to sign up to our Substack, and you'll get all the info there. And we would love to have as many of you with us during that workshop. And there'll be recordings that we'll send, but obviously for it to feel as much like a circle as possible, like Emily said, we'd love to have you all on camera, and there'll be dancing and breath work, and will be really beautiful. So we're very excited to bring the first Witchy Business workshop to life and to hold that space online for everyone. Yes, that's all our news. I mean,
Yeah.
book club, workshop.
Yeah, it's all happening.
It's all happening. So thank you so much for all like your feedback and your support so far. We absolutely love hearing from you. There was one episode where someone told me they found it really funny, and I had to re-listen to the whole episode to find the bit where where we were laughing along and saying incomprehensible things, because we were just giggling so much. So yeah, please keep sharing any takeaways that you get from listening to us. It means so much to us, and we will see you next week. Thank you for tuning in to your weekly dose of Witchy Business.
If you love us as much as we love us, please leave a 5-star review to help us spread the magic.
Thank you again to our sponsor, Plan Her. Please support them the way they support us.
And don't forget to follow the link in the show notes to sign up to our Substack. You can also watch us on YouTube. It's @Witchy Business.
And you can also follow us on Instagram @WeAreWitchyBusiness. Emily is @_Emily Tyson, and I am @Anna.Jordan with an E.